Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars lore video. Today's episode will be relatively short. To be honest, I'm pretty tired after putting out two 15-minute monsters in the past couple of days. Anyway, we got our first bit of footage for Rise of the Resistance, which is a ride at the upcoming Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Park. And I know what some of you are thinking. I went on Star Tours back in the day as a kid, and that had nothing to do with lore or the movies. Fair enough. However, the story group has confirmed that the new ride is both canonical and is set after The Last Jedi. So, the trailer, or whatever it is, starts off inside a First Order Star Destroyer, which is being attacked by the Resistance, and we actually get a nice shot of the fleet, which I'd like to analyze closely. Let's start with what I'm sure most of you guys are interested in primarily, the large Mon Cal cruiser leading the fleet. This is clearly not the Raddus, as it's destroyed, or any other MC-85. The front is noticeably different, lacking the MC-85's pointed nose and the Subjugator-style jaw. It also seems to be proportionally smaller when compared with the rest of the fleet. It does, however, look a lot like Home 1, or another MC-80A, with a few subtle differences. First of all, the MC-80 did not have large open hangars visible at the front of the ship like this cruiser does. It also looks like the sides flare out a bit more, in that the rear is more squared off, but I'm almost positive that these differences are a trick of perspective. To be honest, when I first saw the ship, I thought immediately to the Battle of Kashyyyk artwork from the Essential Guide to Warfare and the MC-90, but I'm almost positive that this is just a standard MC-80. If you look closely, you can actually see a second cruiser and a command pod which fits within the standard Home 1 bridge placement. I tried to analyze the rest of the ship's superstructure and its blisters and bulbs, but unsurprisingly, that was ultimately not very useful. Moving down in tonnage, we see two frigate types used by the Resistance in The Last Jedi. First, the Nebulon C, a 550 meter long frigate which we know was fairly old by the time of the First Order invasion. Strangely enough, the Nebulon Cs here have their wings on the port side when they're on the starboard side in The Last Jedi. I'm not sure if this is a mistake, mirrored footage, a different ship model entirely, or if the wings can slide or are movable. The cross-section book calls these wings docking booms and notes that the ship's bridge pod is also placed here. Looking at official images, it's also clear that there's some sort of mechanism opposite of the wings, meaning that perhaps other wings can be added, the wings can be moved, or they slide in some way. My guess is that the wings can retract and that the Nebulon C will sometimes sport 4 of these docking booms, whether for extra fighter carrying, for extra weapons, or just for whatever other reason. We can clearly see 2 Nebulon Cs within this fleet. Aside from that, we also have 2 Free Virgilia class bunker busters, like the Ninka in The Last Jedi. These frigates are 315 meters long and armed most notably with 3 very high yield plasma bombs. These things get close to that Star Destroyer here and it's in big trouble. It's hard to see these two ships, but you can see the tail of one in the top right and what I'm almost certain is another one far left next to the Nebulon C. Moving down in size, of course we have the Star Fortresses, another vessel with a lot of firepower, but of course low durability. I will say though, unlike in The Last Jedi, at least now they have capital ship support and are arriving fairly close to their target. Still, I think a First Order Star Destroyer could do a lot of damage to these heavy bombers. On the Starfighter side, we have A-Wings and X-Wings. It's unclear what the specific models are, though most likely it's the RZ-2 A-Wing and the T-70 X-Wing. One of the X-Wings to me actually looks like it may be orange and black, like Poe's, but there's really not a lot to work with here, and it's hard to tell overall. Interestingly, before the fleet jumps, we can see the First Order scanning the incoming ships, which indicates not only advanced hyperspace tracking, but gives us another look at the Resistance fleet from a different perspective. That being said, if we pause, we can tell that this screen obviously isn't showing all Resistance ships. We can see the bunker buster, what I think is one of the Mon Calamari cruisers, and most obviously Center Point Station. Just kidding. But this screen is neat to look at, but not necessarily helpful. By the way, the language being shown here is not Arabesh, and I don't know if we can translate it. I'm curious to hear what you guys make of this display. That's everything that I noticed, but there are still a few things that I'd like to talk about. First, The ships here may just be stand-ins. Episode 9 is still a ways off, and the footage from the ride may just be an early version of what we'll actually see, mostly as a way not to spoil future ship designs. However, if that Mon Calamari cruiser is an MC-80, it would be absolutely ancient by now, and I do find it hard to believe that the Resistance couldn't find a more recent cruiser to lead this fleet. I mean, even the Radis, for example, was retired by the First Order conflict. To be honest, I'd love to see some of these ships replaced by New Republic Starhawks, or just new designs overall. We haven't seen very much of the New Republic Navy whatsoever. I'd love to see it fleshed out, even if just in the hands of the Resistance. Speaking of, where do these ships even come from? We don't know the size of the fleet, as we can only see through a single viewport. Regardless, this is a reasonably powerful task force. We know the New Republic wasn't using Nebulon C, so is this just another Resistance task force across the galaxy? Is this perhaps the allies in the Outer Rim? I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I'm also curious to hear whether you think this fleet has a chance against the resurgent Star Destroyer. I think with that many heavy bombers and already launched starfighters, the odds are pretty good for the Resistance. But that's all I have to say about that 2 seconds of footage for now. But before I leave, I will answer 2 questions of the day. The first comes from Clark Atkinson. He asks a few questions, I'm only going to answer one. What do you think Palpatine thought of Darth Bane? That question is actually answered fairly nicely in the Book of the Sith, where we see Palpatine sort of scribbling on ancient Sith texts. We know that he thinks the rule of 2 was ultimately right because the dark side is best when operating from the shadows, and he talks directly about Bane's power being passed down to him personally. But we also know that he believed that he was the end of the Darth Bane lineage, that his apprentices, including Maul, Tyrannus, and Vader, were never meant to surpass him, that he would live forever, and that those under him would merely be his agents. So he didn't disagree with Bane, but he believed that he was the final culmination of the rule of 2. Next up we have Jack Humphrey, who says, I love your videos. My question is, what brought you to Star Wars and Halo? Well, it's pretty simple. My dad introduced me to Star Wars, specifically Episode 5, when I was very, very young. It's one of my first memories, in fact, and from then on I was hooked. I watched Star Wars literally every day when I came home from school, mostly the last half of Return of the Jedi. Halo is a similar story. A few of my friends had Xboxes when Halo CE came out, and I remember my local corner store actually rented Xboxes at the time, and I walked down there and got a copy of the system and Halo CE, even though I was only 9 or 10. I had no idea what to expect, actually. I thought Halo would be some sort of World War II military shooter, and I remember getting stuck on the Pillar of Autumn. But the second time I played, I beat through a lot of the rest of the game in a single sitting. From there on, I was hooked, and my friends played a lot of Halo 3 especially. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and let me know what you thought of the Resistance fleet. Don't forget, you can ask a question down below, and if you include the hashtag AskEck, I'm much more likely to see it. Until next time guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the Force be with you.